The warrior trains to rise above weakness. That's the topic on today's Coffee with Alain for Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. Appreciate everybody that joins. Appreciate everybody that watches later. Appreciate those that are listening to the podcast, whether it's at the website, enjoylifesafely.com, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Thank you to all of you. Appreciate you joining. Today I'm drinking out of a cup with Yi Sun-shin, one of Korea's most popular, famous warriors, one of my favorite historic warriors. Studied a lot about Yi Sun-shin, have written articles about him. And today for Warrior Wisdom, I wanted just to talk a little bit about training to rise above weakness. And what does that mean? It can actually mean a variety of things. One is when you train in a specific martial art or combative system, there are going to be areas that are weaker than others. Hapkido is my core art, and I chose it because it had a self-defense emphasis, was heavy on joint locks and those type of techniques that I found valuable working security and some of the things I was doing. And it was pretty well-rounded. It had striking, kicking, throwing, joint locks, weapons. But I will say it is less for groundwork than, say, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some other things. And while the core philosophy, you don't want to be on the ground in a real fight, is true, something I believe in, and I try always to not go to the ground. I haven't been in a real fight for a while, not young and dumb like I was. However, I also realize that fights do go to the ground. And so I supplemented my Hapkido training with some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling and other type of training. So when we're looking at rising above weaknesses, we look at where our training or our abilities might be weak, and we do some extra training to bring those up. Now, weaknesses are not always in our physical skills and what we're training in. A weakness could be afraid of something, a fear. So we train to overcome fear. We train to overcome any kind of weakness, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, doesn't matter. We want to improve ourselves and overcome all of our weaknesses. That is living with the warrior's edge, and that is training as a warrior to rise above weakness. Make sense? I hope so. Want to say good morning to Dixon. Dixon says, inventor of the famous turtle boats. Yes, Yi Sun-shin. You can actually see, that picture. Or let me remove this one so you can see it a little bit better. On this mug, you can see the turtle ship beside Yi Sun-shin. It's one of the first ironclad battleships that was used against the Japanese Navy to defend Korea and help them be victorious in those battles. If you go to the War Museum in Korea, you can see a bust of Yi Sun-shin, but you can also see the turtle ship replica and so forth. And different places in Korea, you will see things honoring Yi Sun-shin, honoring the turtle ship because of what he did to defend Korea against the Japanese. And so pretty interesting. I wrote a big long article in the Hunlin magazine one time, and there's a bunch of different photos that I actually took at places with Yi Sun-shin and told a lot about him. And so if you ever get a chance to check out that magazine, that was one of my longer and better articles and things that I wrote about him. One of the first things I wrote about him way back in the 90s was for the Korea Herald newspaper. And I wrote about him way back then. So always really liked him, and definitely a warrior to look at and we can learn from. Good morning, Thad. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for saying good morning. So the main thing I really wanted to get across today was living with the Warrior's Edge and training. And there's a lot of kinds of training that we do. We do that to rise above our weaknesses, to become better, to get those parts that maybe aren't as strong as others up to par. If your legs are weaker, get in the gym and put more time on the legs than the arms. If you've just been building your upper body and neglecting legs. If your martial artist kicks strong, but your punches are weak or your grappling is weaker, do some training to bring those up. If your grappling is super strong, but you can't kick, you can't punch, you can't do other things, maybe you want to work a little bit and bring those up. Train to rise above your weaknesses. And the weaknesses will be determined by your goals and what you're trying to achieve. Make sense? I hope so. I'm going to write a little bit of article probably on this in the newsletter. I'm trying to put things out, some of the podcasts, some of the posts on social media, and some of the newsletter articles are on the same themes, but I come at it from different angles depending on which format and which place that I'm posting or sharing. So if you're not getting the newsletter, go to enjoylifesafely.com, get on the newsletter, because the stuff there, a little bit different take on different things than I put on social media. So get that, enjoylifesafely.com. Train to rise above your weaknesses. Make it a wisdom-filled Wednesday, and I'll be back to see you tomorrow.